let's start with New York first.
Yeah.
When you heard that you got a role on Aladdin on Broadway, you were in Australia at that point and you had some time off. So you decided to go on a road trip.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, yes.
During that road trip, when you're in the middle of the Australian bush, right in the middle of nowhere, one night you were looking at the stars and you had this voice in your head that said New York, implying that you're probably scared, not ready for it.
Yeah.
So what is your relationship? I'm going to ask this again. What is your relationship with New York City? Do you get the feeling that now you have squashed that fear, that you're finally ready for it? You did touch upon it as well in your previous answer. Or do you get the feeling that being a New Yorker, chaos, uncertainty, confusion, all of these walk hand in hand always, every single day, as long as you're a New Yorker?
In ways, I think that I did kind of crush that fear. But I think that comes with just time in general, not necessarily where you live. And I think it's a time with yourself and belief in yourself and knowing your worth and your value as an artist and as a person. And I think that's something that grows over time the more you audition. And I also think like the self-belief is stuff that is also something that will ebb and flow as well, you know? And I think as an artist, you put a lot of your worth in like how much you work. And that's not always true. Like some of the most talented people I ever met, they're not always booking the next gig, you know? That doesn't necessarily define your talent. And because music theater is a business and Broadway is a business, it kind of turns into, your value is based on your productivity and like what you're booked and what you're doing. But that's, like I said, that's not always the case. So yeah, there's moments where I have to tell myself just because I didn't book something doesn't mean that I'm not good enough, or, you know, like it just means that that project wasn't for me. And because there's so many elements out of your control as an actor. All you can do is what you can control. You go in, you learn the song, you do it to the best of your abilities. You try to perform it as yourself or whatever character you found through yourself. And then if that's not good enough or if that's not what they're looking for, that's literally out of your control. So that's something, that's when you have to rely on your self-worth and what you believe in as yourself. Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry.
Am I making you nervous?
I'm sorry.
No,
all
it's
this,
okay.
all this, Heather. Why are you so intimidated? Sorry, please go ahead.
Yes.
Things not in your control.
It's not in your control. Yes, including that. But New York City is also very scary. And when I first moved here, I had the biggest audition anxiety, like to the point where I almost considered walking out before I even got called to go into the audition, because you just hear no so many times. They tell you that being an actor, for every 100 auditions, you book one. And so in Australia, the industry is a little bit different in the sense of it's just a lot smaller than New York City. And there's hundreds and thousands of performers here in New York City because everyone wants to come here. Everyone wants to make it. Australia, there's hundreds of thousands as well, but like the industry is so much smaller. Like I know almost every other person of color in the music theater industry there. There's just so much less people there. And also the amount of shows that come in and out of Australia, there's maybe 5 or 6 major productions that audition every year or two. Whereas in America, I was having auditions 2 to 3 times a week. And so I was not used to that. And then 2 to 3 times a week, imagine hearing no 2 to 3 times a week, every week, you know, you're like, oh, wow. Okay. Wow. I must suck. Like you start reflecting it on you. You're like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not fit enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not whatever, white enough, brown enough, like, you know, and then you start thinking about that, but then you just have to pull yourself out of that and be like, it's not about that. You just have to keep working on you. Like, am I doing my best? Am I going to classes? Am I performing the song to the best of my abilities? You can only do your best every time you go in. And if that's what you did, then that's all you can do.